Hey, good evening, and welcome to Friday Night Live. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma of divorce. It's my goal to provide tools, techniques, and hope as you go through the trauma of divorce. It is a very challenging, a very difficult uh, journey to go through. Sorry, I had to get rid of a little ticker across the bottom there. So I'm really glad that you joined me tonight. I'm going to talk about something that's really crucial in going through divorce, and that is dealing with our emotions. And you saw the tagline, which said either deal with your emotions or your emotions will deal with you. And I found that to be so very true over the past 18 years that I've been holding group, being a divorce coach, and then became a domestic mediator. So our emotions can really do a lot of damaging. They're not trustworthy. They need to be understood. They need to be allowed. And so I just want to chat about that a little bit tonight. First of all, wherever you are, I think it's really important to see and to say it's okay where you are. It's okay. Wherever you may find yourself during this journey, the emotions can be bewildering. And I just want you to know that it's okay to be where you are. You don't have to pretend to be anything, but you do need to do what you do need to do is acknowledge where you are. So I want to chat a little bit tonight, and I'll use one of my books as a reference. But emotions, before I jump into that, let me just state that emotions is the first stage that we deal with as we go through the 4 stages of divorce. This is a workbook that I use for my support group. Emotions are the first and foremost things that are out there, and we can't think clearly and make the decisions we need to make because those emotions are in the way. And so that's another reason why you need support as you go through this, because your emotions are going to lead you into some really tricky places. So I want to talk about some of them tonight. And I also want to use this resource, which is a small book that I created a couple of years ago, 30 Days of Healing After Divorce. And what it does is it takes a small topic, one topic a day, and gives you some information, asks you some questions, and tells a story on it. So let's jump into that. And first, let me ask you, what are you doing with your emotions? Are you stuffing them? Are you denying them? Or are you dealing with them honestly? I hope you are dealing with them honestly and not denying them or stuffing them, because that is only dangerous. In many ways, it's physically dangerous, it's bad for your health, it's emotionally because you're just going to blow and you're going to do something stupid if you don't deal with the emotions that you are experiencing right now. So emotions are there for us to tell us something is wrong, something needs to be checked, something needs to be dealt with. So how very important that we look at our emotions as flags for us to take note. The red engine light that comes on our dashboard in our car, we need to be paying attention to. Paying attention to. So I want to talk about a couple of them today. First of all, I want to talk about guilt. So many of us have a lot of guilt as we go through divorce, and I cover that topic in this book. It's on day 10, and it's called The Guilt Gorilla. Because it feels like a gorilla on our back. And it's very, very challenging. But guilt is a teacher. And that's what it is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be something that you are living with and jiving with, as I state in this story. And I talk about a woman by the name of Susan who was despondent, disheartened, and she was so low as if she slithered into the group. She left the marriage as a measure of survival. The demeaning emotional abuse she was living in had taken its toll. She needed her kids to find healthy. She was filled with guilt and shame and worthlessness. She thought God was mad at her and that the church was mad at her too because she left. Till death do us part rang in her head. Susan worked toward understanding the mercy of God was as great as his holiness. She laid it out before us and before him, and she learned a truer perception of God. His love and mercy were open to her pain and wanted to embrace her. He gave her hope, direction, healing, and forgiveness to clean the slate and start anew. So there are 3 points that go with this, the guilt gorilla on day 10. Forgive yourself. Use this guilt to be reconciled with God. And guilt can be used for you to be manipulated by others. So you want to be careful with that guilt. And that is something that released unto God is going to clear our mind and clear our hearts. And 1 John 1:9 says, when we confess our sins, he forgives us and purifies us. So whatever guilt you may be feeling, it is something to let go and release. In fact, guilt is made in us to draw us closer to God and asking for forgiveness. And then another great verse, then I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. So I hope you find some comfort in those, because everyone that I've ever worked with, myself included, had things to feel guilty about, things we didn't do right. And I list in here some of the things people may be feeling, such as staying too long in the relationship, something that was said, something that was done. We all have these. So what do we do with this heavy emotion of guilt? We can't live with it. We can't keep it. It's going to burn us. It's going to hurt us. We need to release it to the place where it can be forgiven. It can be forgiven. Now, there may be some consequences because of our actions, but there is also true forgiveness in confessing that, and how important it is that you not only confess that to God, but you have a safe person to speak with, someone in a support group or a therapist or a pastor, someone who you are able to release this to. So guilt can be a gorilla that you carry around on your back, but it doesn't have to be. It is something that is in us to draw us into drawing closer to God and to be relieved of that guilt and that pain. So the next one is shame. I know I've had many Facebook Lives on shame, but it's so important. And then what I say here is shame is a liar, and I say that in my support group too, because shame attacks us at our very core, our personhood. And so it's a liar because it tells us that we don't have value, that we are worthless, that we're not enough. And all of those things that come into our mind and heart are really lies, and they can be very, very defeating. So again, with shame and with guilt, who is that person that you might be able to work through this with? Someone to restore you, someone to let you know that you have incredible value. And though this divorce is taking place, it does not diminish the value of who you are. You are a creation of God who God dearly loves, and you are loved by many people as well. So don't let shame and your feelings lie to you and keep you pressed down and oppressed. That's what oppressed means, is to be pressed down. To be depressed leads, of course, to depression. So again, there are these emotions that need to be released, to let go of, to it be acknowledged, so that we can move forward. Let's see what else we need to talk about here. Oh, let's go with anger. Anger is a very interesting emotion, and we may think of anger as one thing. However, I love this iceberg illustration, which I hope you can see. Our anger may be our sadness, our disappointment, our stress, our being tired or overwhelmed, being hungry, lonely, threatened, guilty, pain, contempt, embarrassed, scarred, scared, helpless, jealous, shame. All of those things our anger can be. So if we're feeling that emotion of anger, a really good question is to ask ourselves, what am I angry about? And then to be able to articulate it, to write it down, to express it to someone. These are the things, in fact, we do that in group. These are the things that I'm angry about. Maybe it's the betrayal. Maybe it's the lies. Maybe it's the what it's doing to the children. To form that list is really healthy in allowing you to release that anger and to better understand. I'm not angry. I'm embarrassed that I'm having to be in this situation. Well, that's dealt with in a different way than anger is. So, how important it is that we are feeling what we feel, to be able simply to sit in our anger, in our guilt, in our shame, and be curious about what are these emotions trying to tell me? How do I express them? How do I deal with them? And that is always best done with someone who is knowledgeable on the topic, whether it's a therapist, again, your support group with a good leader that you would be able to work through and deal with that. So, a great Bible verse: people with understanding control their anger. A hot temper shows great foolishness. It's foolish because it gets us into all kinds of trouble, and it makes a complicated situation even more complicated. So, you may have the need to be angry. The question is, what do you do with that anger? And we would be wise to find that support. And, that's one of my taglines: don't go through this alone, because we need an understanding of what's going on in our mind and our heart. That many things we can't see because we're too close and engulfed in it. So, how very important it is that we do seek out help of others. Also, let me add to this. Speaking of anger, I love this. I brought it up before because it was an incredibly um, reactive. I had so many reactions to this post. The best revenge is none. Heal, move on, and don't become like those who have hurt you. So, our anger can cause us to want to get revenge, and that's never wise, never wise. It's not ours to handle. It is our job and responsibility to work on our own healing, because that is going to be what's going to bring us through this and to the other side of divorce. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have not been in a support group, I do have one that started last week. And so we are going to be on week 2 this Tuesday. So you can contact me for a registration form. We're Tuesday, it is hybrid. So no matter where you live, you could join us. And I hope you do if you are in the middle of, or you've completed, or going into a divorce. It's very, very helpful. I've never, in the past 18 years, I've never had someone say, well, this was not worth my time. Never, ever. They always are glad that they stayed the entire 10 weeks and they took the time and the effort to go into a support group. I hope you do too. I hope you're getting the support and the healing that you need right now. If I can be of help, reach out. I give my first hour consult at no cost, and I'd be more than happy to speak with you. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma and after the trauma of divorce. Good evening.